All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, part of the Blue Wire Network. We are live here on a Thursday night, live from Imperial Series continues. I am joined by a good friend, a recurring guest on this podcast. Although it's been a minute since I've had you on, man, and
yes, it has.
It's we were just talking. I've had you on many times, but first time ever on the video side. So
yeah,
what's going on? Nate Geary, by the way, for people listening to WGR. What's going on, buddy? How you doing, man?
No one's gotten to see my ugly face on your camera. But you know what? I didn't even try to do this. Your promotional picture is me in this shirt.
It is. You know what? Let me pull that up for the people there who are watching.
I'm wearing the shirt. It's a good shirt. I golf well in it, and I podcast well in it, luckily for you.
We're going to talk some golf. Obviously, we're going to talk plenty of Buffalo Bills. Let's start with wings. And I'll tell you what, obviously we're here at Imperial. I already know how you feel about Imperial Pizza. I have a lot of media guests on, and I respect them all. I love them all. And then, you know, they like their wings. But, you know, I'll be like, you know, how are the wings? And they're like, yeah, they're good. And you're the, like, if anyone in the media I could talk to about wings and actually get some, almost treat it like a sport. Eating wings like a sport. It is definitely Nate Geary. So what did we bang out before we started? We had some
Pat. I just want to say first and foremost, I did not ask Pat for specific wing flavors.
No.
I got here and the 3 wing flavors I would have chose, like that I would have picked personally, were already on the table for me.
They were. And for people watching and listening, we had hot ciabatta charred. We had
so good
medium lemon pepper.
Yep. Which is, I told you, your baseline, you go places and to try to make it fair, you do the baseline chicken sauce, right? Like you want to do medium everywhere just to see what their medium's like. Now, if everybody just used the same medium sauce, it would be easier. But some places have their own house sauce. It's not Frank's.
Right.
But a lot of people just, have different variations of Frank's. Nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
But medium lemon pepper is my personal, like, I'm choosing medium lemon pepper as the baseline for other people.
Yeah.
And if you don't have medium lemon pepper, then you're out.
You know, that's funny. We've had wings together many times at multiple places. I never knew that about you, though.
Medium lemon pepper
until tonight.
That's where I go.
Yeah. And then the third kind of wings we had here at Imperial, which was an homage to my guy, one of your best friends, Marcel Louis Jacques, honey mustard barbecue charred, which the last time you were here for a show with me, Marcel was with us as well. We were just talking about this. That was in July a couple of years ago, and like a couple of weeks later, that's when news broke that Marcel was going down to Miami.
Greener pastures, or in this case, sunnier pastures.
Sunnier pastures for sure. But anyway, now that I have you on here, and you, like I said, you can kind of bring light to these wings more than a lot of the other guests, because some people just, wings are wings to them.
Sure.
I know that's not the case with you. What do you like about this place the most when it comes to wings?
Consistency.
Yeah.
You could be here on a Tuesday, you could be here on a Saturday, and you'll have the same level of consistency with the wing. So another thing that I judge a place by, right, is if I have to ask for extra crispy, all I'm asking you is to cook them at the proper crisp level. I'm not actually asking for extra crispy rings.
Right.
I just know that there's a good chance, not that they're undercooked, it's just that they're not that crispy level that I'm looking for, right? So the thing about this place is you never have to ask for extra crispy. That's usually a good baseline of saying, like, is this place a great wing place or not? Do I have to ask extra crispy or not? If I don't, then it's sort of in a separate tier entirely. I think in terms of pizzeria wings, it is Macy's and it's Imperial, and then it's everybody else.
Yeah.
The variation of wings, I will say this, though, just in terms of whether it's pizzeria, whether it's sports bar, whether it's hole in the wall, the Imperial Pizza barbecue sauce is the best barbecue sauce of any wing that I've had. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Of everything you said, and I agree with pretty much everything you said. It stands out for me is just consistency. To me, there's so many good wing places in Western New York where, you and I could go to, I'm not going to name a place, but we go to whatever bar and we go there and it's like, oh, these wings are really good, man. They're the bomb. And then you'll go tell your cousin the next time you're out and you'll go with him and it'll taste completely different. You know what I mean? And there's only a handful of places to me that are consistent. This is one of them, by the way. And I know you don't know this. One more thing about Imperial, then we'll get into the show, but kind of breaking news here. I'm going to put this up so people can see it on the video side. There is actually a second Imperial Pizza coming here in just a month.
Where?
1655 Main
Downtown?
Street. No, not downtown. It's near Canisius College. So that's a big
Got
W.
me really excited.
That's a big W for people around that area. But
I mean,
near
that's kind
Canisius
of downtown.
College.
It's close to me.
It's near where 26 Shirts was. They
Okay.
moved to Kenmore.
Listen, anywhere close to the city is good with me.
Yeah.
Wow.
1655 Main Street.
65.
Coming soon. Anyway, so before we get into some football, people know you. Well, they know you for a lot of reasons. One of them, of course, is golf. Tell us about a couple of your, because again, it's been a minute since I've had you on the show. Summer's winding down now. You've done a lot of summer trips. Tell me about one or two of them.
So, as a lot of you know, I decided to give up my Saturday show, mostly because I needed. So, I bartend as well. Right. I have a full-time 40-hour-a-week job.
Yep.
And I work at GR. I have 2 bartending jobs, and I work at GR, and I have full 40-hour-a-week full-time job. This year, I'd been working Saturdays since I was 21.
I was going to say, you've been doing it for a while, man.
Either whether it was producing for Collar, whether it was producing for Sale, or hosting the show myself, I'd been doing it for 10 years. I have not had a Saturday to myself in almost 10 years. So I decided this year, the Saturday slot is to develop guys. It's to develop people into giving them opportunities to be on air. So I just felt like it was time for me to hand the keys off to somebody else, and Josh and Zach Jones do a great job on Saturdays, but I needed the break, and I thought it was time to pass the buck. So
before you get into golf and talking about giving up, how was that adjustment for you? Because when you're used to doing for something as long as you do, that habit, it just be, that ritual, was it weird for you at first to like not? No, not really.
No. I've wanted a Saturday morning where I didn't have to wake up and prepare for a show and then do the show. And it was, it's just one of those things where it's 11 to 2. It's only 3 hours, but it's smack dab in the middle of your day. And then I'm waking up at 8 o'clock to make sure I prep right for the show. You do these every day now, for God's sakes. The level. You don't just walk in front of a microphone and start talking. That's not how you do this at a high level. So I started using my Saturdays to golf more, travel. I did several golf trips this year. I went to Pinehurst, where they're going to play 2024's U.S. Open. Played very well there. Played Tobacco Road, which I think is one of the. It's like a golfer's dream. It's like golf art, is how I would describe it. So I got to play lots of really amazing courses, travel, play different golf courses, but just have a full weekend to myself. And I had an awesome summer. I'm sad it's over, but I'm also glad Bill season's here, and you'll never catch me complaining about football season. That's for sure. You'll never catch me complaining.
So many media people are always posting photos of them golfing. Some of them golf together. It's just golf's fun.
Of course, us media guys, we got to stick together.
Okay, well, who amongst these media guys and girls that get on in the course, tell us the truth? Who's actually respectable out there? Like, who's got some good sticks on the course?
Sale is a super interestingly consistent player. He's not like Sale's not going to go out there and shoot, in the 70s, but he'll be low to mid 80s. And he's got this nice little he's a lefty. He hits this nice little banana hook where he hits it 220 down the middle of the fairway every single time. Sale's a very consistent golfer.
Yeah.
Jeremy White and myself are pretty close. I'm better. But it's not that far apart. We're pretty close. I'm a 6 handicap. I think Jeremy's a 8 or 9. So we're pretty close.
Yeah.
Joe DiBiase's fine golfer. We were together. We did a league at Delaware Park this year called the Birdie League, and Joe and I were partners. Bulldog's he's big. He can wield the club around. Bulldog's a good golfer.
I love that dude.
But more so, I love playing with Bulldog.
Yeah, I can imagine. He's a really good dude.
Bulldog is one of those rare people that you meet that you're like, you would just do anything for. Bulldog is just as good of a people as it gets. Chris Baker.
Guest next week, by the way, here live from Imperial Pizza.
Chris Baker.
Good segue.
We belong to the same country club together.
Yeah.
We don't really play together a lot, but we compare scorecards. I kick his ass. Fairburn stinks.
Good, call them out, man. That's what I like about you, keeping it real.
Yeah, no, the media guys, listen, we have fun. We do the Bills media tournament every year. I was not able to defend my title this year. I had to travel for work at my other job.
That's right. I remember seeing that.
So Brandon Bean won for the 4th time in his 6 years here, which let's just say Brandon Bean might be stacking the squads a little bit. Me and AJ Feldman won it last year with Matt Barkley. But I didn't get to defend it, so there's an asterisk next to that win. That's all I got to say.
So who won it this year?
Brandon Bean and I believe Jay Skursky.
Okay.
Skursky's a stick.
Is he?
But better than Skursky, Skursky's son.
Oh, my God. That kid is
stud.
Yeah.
He's a stud. He'd beat me. I think he'd go on the course and beat me. I'm very inconsistent. I could at any point go out and shoot a 95 or a 75.
Really?
It's golf.
You know, you bring up Jay, small world.
Speaking of Jay is also really good people.
He is. In fact, again, you know, a small world. Jay Skursky plays softball with my son. They play on 2 leagues together, actually. Yeah. So he's gotten to know, I know Jay for a long time now,
Jay's a great guy.
Jay's gotten to know my kid too. So yeah, that's really cool. So by the way, so again, we're doing this live on a Thursday night.
We are.
We got some football going on, Minnesota and Philadelphia. I shouldn't be so nice to you. We are playing each other this week in our Dynasty Media League.
I wouldn't be nice to me if I were playing me either. Scored 200 points.
Should
last
I
week
call
against
myself
Joe
out
DiBiase.
for
Yes,
one of the all-time dumb moves?
Tell the people. I'll move to the side if you want to pan in.
So last week, before the season started, you proposed a trade to me. It's not even like I proposed it to you. You proposed a trade. You offered me Tua and Raheem Mostert for Ritter, Jalen Warren from Pittsburgh, and a first-round pick next year. Again, this is a media dynasty league. It's not a one-year league, so that matters. Context matters. You want younger players and, you know, draft picks and stuff like that, and I rejected it. And then literally, 48 hours later, Tua throws 466 yards and 3 touchdowns. And that's not even I don't want to say it because it's not funny, but the most ironic part is I'd say no to that trade, and the next night, Aaron Rodgers, who was my quarterback in Dynasty, lasted 4 plays. And
it's a cold world for you, buddy.
It is. That's really bad on my part. So you mentioned, so now you're not doing Saturdays at WGR, but you're still on the air.
Yes.
And including Monday night, after the game on Monday night. I got to ask you, because I didn't get a chance. I had to tape a show, so I didn't get to listen on WGR Monday night. What was the temperature of the callers? Was it like a normal loss? Was it way worse? What was the vibe like trying to field some calls?
It was not good. It was pretty bad.
No.
First caller said that he thought the best solution would be to have Kyle Allen play this week and have Josh Allen watch from the bench.
Come on.
First caller.
Do you think some of them, I know at least some of them got to be trying to troll you to get you to react.
That guy was legit.
Do you think there's some of them that are just legit callers who truly believe that?
That guy was legit. I had a buddy of mine call in, but I know he's unhinged, my friend. So I know what he said wasn't just because it was me on air. He was unhinged. He had a quote that I actually really liked from this. It was like that Sean McDermott and Ken Dorsey were like driver's ed teachers trying to drive F1.
What?
And I was like, it's kind of funny. It's pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
Driver's ed teachers or the Bills offense was an F1 car, and they were trying to fill it with 87 octane Camry fuel.
Does anyone ever say something on the air to you on a call, and not necessarily Monday, but it like literally makes you just laugh out loud in the moment, like you can't even hold it in?
Yeah, I mean, people say a lot of ridiculous things all the time. I listen, and then like, you know, God bless our call screeners. Sometimes they call in and they say they're going to say something, and they say something completely different, and that's just kind of how sports radio goes. Yeah, no, there was not exactly the most curated takes on Monday night after that loss.
I can only imagine. I mean, I saw Twitter and it was pretty bad. I can only imagine the actual physical phone calls.
Wasn't great.
Must have been worse. I want to go back to that in a second, but let me ask you this without deep diving into it. But the incident earlier this week with the hot mic and comments said,
sure,
the reaction, and now people who follow us on Twitter, it is what it is. She apologized. This is just my own personal opinion, and no one else but my opinion. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. It shouldn't have been said, but I almost, again, I don't want to get into what was said. What I want to talk to you about is the reaction from Stefan Diggs. He went on Twitter, and it's not that he was nasty or anything like that.
No.
But I guess what I'm asking you is, are you a little bit surprised? It seems to me that there's like a continuous disconnect going on right now between some of the players, or the players in general, and management, the front office, the staff, whatever it may be. That just felt to me like something that probably would have been better off being handled in-house. I don't know. Maybe you don't agree with me.
How many times have we said that over the last 8 months that these things should be handled in-house?
I was surprised to see that tonight.
I am a huge fan of Maddie Glab.
Me too.
I don't think she meant anything negative about it. I think that it's listen, hot mic is a tough situation because there's zero context behind what was being said, what was being asked, what provoked her to say what she said, and in the context that she said it. Again, I think that Maddie is one of the very few people that do what we do, that does a good job just kind of telling it how it is. And sure. I think it's an unfortunate situation. And, I was not expecting to see anyone address it. I definitely was not expecting to see Stefan Diggs address it on social media. But to your point, I think there does seem to be some kind of disconnect between the team and what gets leaked, what gets tweeted, what gets talked about. And this has just been such, and maybe this is just because of what we've been used to seeing, which is everything's locked up and nothing gets talked about and nothing leaves the locker room. And now really from the Bengals game on, we've seen example after example of things that are, I guess, a little bit different than what we're used to seeing with this Bills organization, and just the tight ship that Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott and the Bills PR department run. But you can't control everybody. You can't control what, to me anyways, what Stefan Diggs is going to feel or want to say about that. So listen, I'm as big of a Maddie Glab fan as I'm a huge Stefan Diggs fan.
Sure.
I think that, Stefan Diggs goes out this week or during the game, right? And there's a situation where the camera pans to him talking to Josh Allen, right? And Michael Irvin comes out and has all this negative stuff. You can't show this guy up. And I'm trying to understand what Stefan Diggs can do that he won't be villainized for.
Exactly. He doesn't talk to the media. He's villainized. He's pounding on the sidelines. He's villainized. He's going up to his quarterback, trying to encourage him and get him going. He's villainized. I couldn't agree with you more.
What it kind of comes down to, and this is what happens when you become a star, when you become a media darling, because your 15 minutes, they're 15 minutes, and they really are, right? And you look at what happened in Minnesota, and I think what happened in Minnesota, how he got out, how he was traded, the tweet and all that, is there's this reputation or narrative around Stefan Diggs, fair or unfair, that people want to cling to. And, I know that what happened during that Cincinnati Bengals game, the drama around it, the way he's being demonstrative on the sidelines, like, I think Stefan Diggs is the ultimate competitor. I think he's a great teammate. I think there's a reason he continually gets voted captain.
Sure.
I think he is a victim of a lazy narrative, and it is what it is. And I don't think Stefan Diggs loses any sleep over it. I don't think he goes to bed thinking, why are people mean to me? Stefan Diggs is going to be Stefan Diggs, and I think that the Bills are better when the offense runs exclusively through Diggs and everybody else gets a little piece. When they stop flowing the offense through Stefan Diggs, I get what could make him frustrated. I get why, whether or not he was out there saying he wanted to be traded or not, he said he didn't, and I believe him. I would bet that there are people around him that have different opinions. I know his brother, had some different opinions about some stuff. And that does not mean that Stefan Diggs shares those opinions.
Agreed.
So I think he gets to be sometimes a victim of his surroundings, of the people that are close to him and the things that they say. And also, I think he just kind of tends to be a victim of narrative. And everybody knows that somebody that has to deal with reputation or whatever it might be, whether it's the workplace, whether it's amongst friends, whether it's in professional sports, where it might be unfair, but at the end of the day, Stephon Diggs, he might be upset about this, but I would think that it's not going to, he'll go to sleep tonight just fine.
And I want to be really clear about something too. Hot mic, no hot mic. What was said, and it's not right. But all I'm saying is that context matters, tone matters, intent of what you're saying, all that matters. And I am certainly not criticizing Stephon Diggs, even for going on Twitter and being kind of pissed off to hear about that. That probably did piss him off, and it should. I guess my main point is the disconnect, like that should have been handled somewhere else. It should have been handled in-house. I feel like, to your point, there was a time with this team where that would have got him buttoned right there. You know what I mean? It would have been inside doors that we don't know about, and that's how that would have been addressed. I feel like there's a lot of teams around the league right now where if that happens, it's going to get addressed internally. So I guess I was just really surprised, for more than 24 hours later for this to continue to be
historically,
a story.
That's where it is. It's done internally.
Right. All right. Well, let's go back to the game on Monday night. I want to kind of get your takes on Ken Dorsey. You had a tweet. I don't know what it was word for word, but it alludes to what I'm saying right now, because I thought it was a great tweet that you put out. Like, with my concern with Ken Dorsey, I didn't think he was bad on Monday, with the exception of that 2nd and 15 run call in overtime.
And that tends to be the overwhelming thought of that game, was that particular play.
But
it was not good.
The criticism, like, again, and again, you had to field a lot of calls, I'm sure, about it. Have you seen a lot of, mentions, replies from your tweets about Ken Dorsey? Do you feel like at this point, it's kind of like, it's not even like the X's and O's that concerns me right now?
No.
I saw a quarterback who was playing a terrible game out there and just kind of felt like his body language made it look like he was on an island. Like, where's your coordinator? I know he's in the booth, and maybe he shouldn't be in the booth. I don't know, but somebody in your ear, somebody talking to your quarterback on the sidelines. It's just like, is his biggest inability right now, Ken Dorsey, at least at this time, the not having the ability to reel in Josh Allen when he starts to get out of control on the field, like he clearly was on Monday? Like, your coordinator's got to, isn't that part of the gig? Kind of reeling him in a little bit?
I loved what you just mentioned about whether or not he should be upstairs or not. The more and more I think about it, I like the idea of him being on the sidelines. Yeah. Now, does that change anything? I'm not sure. I think the tweet you're referring to is the idea of blaming him for micro things rather than the macro.
Yes, exactly. Elaborate on that, because not everyone saw your tweet.
So I guess what I meant by that is, I think you can look at the micro, which is the play calling, the down by down, the micro stuff in the middle of a game.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be more critical of Ken Dorsey in the macro, which is helping Josh evolve as a decision maker, helping him mature as a decision maker. Things that I think Brian Daboll was very good at.
Yeah.
There was a quote from Jordan Palmer this week about, Bill Belichick talking about Brian Daboll as a coach, where he's one of those very unique, very, very few people in the NFL that could coach offense, defense, and special teams. And I think there was a level of Brian Daboll was able to teach Josh and help Josh evolve as a football player, not just as a quarterback, not just as somebody that plays offense.
Right.
And I think that Josh misses that. I don't know that it's something that is like, you can point to a certain play or a scheme or structure, but rather the evolution of Josh as a football player, understanding what defenses are doing and why they're doing it. And I do think that's where they miss Brian Daboll the most. I don't know that it's just from play calling or structure or scheme. But I think where Ken Dorsey is lacking right now is not the play calling or designing of pass plays or pass concepts. I thought that they designed a really good, smart game plan that worked. And I think Josh went rogue. And I think if you're in the workplace and you design people love saying SOP, right? Which is standard operating procedure. You design a structure, a standard operating procedure in your office, and you as an employee don't follow it.
Mm-hmm.
What happens?
Falls apart, man.
it falls apart, but there are consequences.
Yeah, absolutely.
You,
Yeah,
as an employee, if they say, I need you to follow this process, I need you, when you're selling something, I need you to ask permission to price this thing up, and you go out and you sell it without asking permission to price it, and then you sell it at the wrong price, what happens?
Yeah, there's consequences.
There's consequences.
Yeah.
Whether you're the best sales guy or the worst sales guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're oftentimes willing to overlook your top sales guy making rogue decisions. But at a certain point, if it's hurting the rest of the organization, those are things you have to address with your top sales guy, because that's the guy that everybody follows, that he's the breadwinner. He's the guy at he or she's the guy at the top that is selling the most and doing the most and doing the right things every month. But you start veering on your own, you start going rogue. Well, then there are consequences. And I think right now there isn't anybody that's looking at Josh saying, you can't do this, and here's why. And Sean McDermott might be able to point at the sideline and say, be smart. It's not resonating.
Take off your media hat for a second, and just as a fan, and you don't have to even be an expert, but you could just see him imploding on the field on
real
Monday.
time.
And it was the body language that kind of bothered me more than the actual mistakes.
I agree.
100%. So I completely agree with what you're saying when it comes to that. How do you that was the worst game I've ever seen him play. Now, you could go back to the Cincinnati game last year, and there were other bad games too. But like even the Jacksonville game, the Cincinnati game last year, you could point your finger at a million different things. The offensive line couldn't block anyone in Cincinnati or in Buffalo last year in the playoffs. Nobody on defense showed up. They were getting pushed all over the place.
Yep.
Nobody could make a tackle. This game, I felt like the offensive line, considering who the opponent was, at least was semi-adequate. The defense played really good.
Played great.
Really good. And your quarterback blew the game.
13 points.
So that's why I say that might have been, because I feel like this is the first time where I can look at a game and say they lost this game because of Josh Allen.
Yep.
You know, you kind of get those vibes from Monday.
Yeah, I mean, he was the first one to admit. I mean, it was on him, and I agree it was on him. I think the defense did enough in that game to keep them in the football game. Obviously, the Garrett Wilson touchdown was incredible. I mean, it's just
Trey White was right there.
It's an elite play.
Yeah.
Right. Trey White's in position to make the play, and it is what it is. I'm of the mind, Pat, that you just need Josh Allen to be a game manager. And there are games where you need Josh Allen to be Josh Allen and be elite.
Yes.
But there are also games where all it requires you to do is be a game manager. And it's the quarterbacks that can do both. There are games where Pat Mahomes, all he has to do is be a game manager. Joe Burrow, if Joe Burrow was a game manager last Sunday, they beat the Browns. He played poorly. Listen, the best four quarterbacks in football, the most talented quarterbacks in football, all four of them lost on week one.
Yeah.
And before everybody wants to doom and gloom and say the Bills season's over, 2 years ago, when they went to the AFC divisional round and had 13 seconds, they were 11-6, and they lost week one to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it felt embarrassing.
It was. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, they lost to Jacksonville that year too. To me, the season's not over, but man, that was a really difficult. It was difficult to watch because what it was is it felt like a culmination of concerns manifesting themselves in one game.
I love your point about sometimes you got to be a game manager. Sometimes you got to go out and win the game. If you're playing the Chiefs, you're playing Pat Mahomes. You got to
go win the game. You're not going to
win by dumping the ball off 3-4 yards a crack. But when you're playing a team like the Jets and a backup quarterback, it's pretty much just don't blow it. All that said, one game, and I also feel there's not enough credit that's being given to a very good defense. I think the Jets defense is really good. And styles make fights, and they just match up with the Bills so well. This isn't the first time, and they lost to them last year. The offense didn't play very well in Buffalo last year. Going back even 2 years, the Jets, for whatever reason, the way their defense is built, it's just they give Josh Allen fits. But, I mean, this is kind of a rhetorical question, but, like, your confidence isn't lost going forward on Josh Allen, is it?
No. I think that there are questions about mental maturity, his ability to, in the middle of a game when things aren't going exactly right, for him to overcome those things. And
sure.
And you a Ted Lasso guy?
Yes.
Have the memory of a goldfish?
Yes.
It's super important as a quarterback.
It is.
Playing quarterback is the hardest thing you can do in sports because so much is expected of you. And when you fall short in the middle of a game, you have to realize that just because in a play or a handful of plays you fell short, there are 60 other plays, 70 other plays, 80 other plays in a game where you can make an impact. So it's hard to what's really difficult is not letting one play snowball into a 20, a 30, a 40 play thing or a game or a week thing. So I think for Josh, it's going to be really important for him to bounce back. I think this is a good opponent to bounce back against the Las Vegas Raiders. But this is an elite defensive line. I mean, they have the second best pass rusher on the edge in football in Max Crosby. They have Chandler Jones. They drafted the kid out of Texas Tech, and I'm forgetting his name, but he looked unreal in the preseason game that he played. So this is not enough. They play some unbelievable defenses this year. They've got Dallas, who's the best defense in the league. They've got the Jets another time, which is the second best defense in the league. They got New England 2 times, which is a really good defense. They got Philadelphia, who's a really good defense. Denver, really good defense. They're going to play almost all of the top 10 defenses in football, and it's not going to get easier. So he's got to make better decisions. He's got to understand when. I think part of this is patience and maturity. And I think those two things are synonymous with Josh, because I think asking him to be patient for a 60-minute game is hard right now. Mm-hmm. Because when he was patient, he had a 70% completion percentage on Monday night. And he went rogue 3 plays throwing the football and 3 interceptions. If he doesn't throw those and they're just incomplete passes, they might blow that team out.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's just tough. You want your quarterback to be mature. You want him to make those right decisions. You want him to make the Pat Mahomes decisions, which Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, these guys don't throw interceptions because they have the ability to stay patient throughout an entire football game. And that's what we're waiting to see Josh do. And I think that's where you start to lean on Ken Dorsey and say, we need you to help him get there.
All right, we are back here live from Imperial Pizza at 1035 Abbott in South Buffalo. Good wings. Got my man Nate Geary with me. What's going on with this football game, by the way? I'm kind of got my head the other way.
It's a slop fest. It's a poop fest.
It's a slop fest.
It's a poop fest, yeah.
How big are you on being like an advanced stats guy? Like, are you a PFF guy? How much when you see stats come out?
I like DVOA
every week? Yeah.
I like Aaron Shots. I think DVOA is a great stat. I think
Aaron Quinn's a big DVOA guy.
I'm a DVOA guy. Now, there are other, ADOT, average depth of target. There are a couple other quarterback advanced analytics that I look at. But I think DVOA is the best, so far, the best indicator of how good a team is. And I think the Bills finished 10th in offensive DVOA, even though they turned the ball over 3 times.
That's weird.
They also last year were one of the best teams ever recorded offense, defense, and special teams wise in DVOA.
Yeah, that's nuts, man. Well, I looked at PFF for this week. I just literally subscribed this week, and I was going through some of them, like the guys who statistically played the best. I think had good games. Greg Rizzo had a really good game. He was 10th. I'm looking at my notes now. He was 10th.
Him and Floyd were unblockable on the edge.
Leonard Floyd had the 4th best pass rushing productivity of 135
he was
eligible defensive ends, and Greg Rizzo was 10th overall out of 135. How impressed were you with that front four? Because I thought Ed Oliver, a guy who I'm kind of critical
6 pressures.
I'm kind of critical of him because it seems like he's a streaky or splash player. But if Monday, I almost said yesterday, if Monday's any kind of indicator, that's the Ed Oliver that you want because he looked really good.
I thought Jordan Phillips had a good game. I thought Daquan Jones. I think the whole front four had a great game, except for losing some of their run lanes and some of their just maintaining run integrity. It's a problem for this defense time and time again. What I'll say is Leonard Floyd really, really impressed me.
Yeah.
As a 1-year deal guy, with $3 or $4 million, whatever, he had 9.5 sacks last year, and seeing him be as productive as he was off the edge.
There's some juice to him, man.
I love the idea of them getting creative with Von. So, Cleveland, right? Cleveland is using Myles Garrett. Jim Schwartz, former Bills defensive coordinator, is using Myles Garrett in really unique ways, at least from what we saw in week 1. I don't know if you saw these, where he was basically as a blitzing linebacker in the middle of the field. I am super interested in the idea of having Ed Oliver on the field, having Rousseau and Floyd as your two edges, and then getting weird, getting fun, doing some unique stuff with Von Miller when he gets back and he gets healthy. So I think Leonard Floyd has been a huge pickup for this team. He was their most impactful defensive player outside of Matt Milano on Monday.
He's had at least 9 sacks 3 straight seasons. So I mean the consistency
is there
with him too. And there were some critics who might have felt that maybe his best days are long behind him, and that's why he signed with the Bills after the draft for 1 year. But again, one game, we can't overreact too much like Josh Allen had a one really bad game. You can't overreact really too much to a guy having a good game either. But yeah, he looked really good. Also I thought looked really good, and then I looked it up on PFF and his grade was good as well. Micah Hyde, 6th best grade of any safety. Don't agree, huh? This is PFF disconnect. No.
You know who didn't look that good?
I know who you're gonna say. And you're not wrong.
Jordan Poyer.
Yeah, man, that's
he didn't look that good in preseason.
You remember the Pittsburgh preseason game when that touchdown run by the guy that you tried to acquire from me in our dynasty league, Jalen Warren? Yeah, I don't know. I just took a bad angle. It's just like, whatever. It's just a play. But I've seen that like 3 times now, and some bad angles.
He looks cooked.
Yeah, look. I don't want him to be. I don't want him to be, and I'm still willing to give him the benefit of the doubt right now. But I will say the foot speed doesn't look there. I'm hoping that the instincts, and his penchant for being around the football, because he has done throughout his career, he's kind of like Milano in a way. He just has a nose to find that football. You got to hope those skills are still there, because it does seem like the speed and the at least the foot speed is definitely starting to erode a little bit, man. It's that is worrisome. But Micah Hyde, he looked quick. He got to the ball quick. I think he had like 6 or 7 tackles. He had an 85.6 PFF grade overall, which was 6th best of all the safeties in the NFL. And then one other guy that kind of stood out for me for good reasons, and I looked it up in the grade matches too. We talk about the offensive line and all the struggles that they had at times, but O'Cyrus Torrence in his first start,
steady,
far and away had the best grade of anyone on the team on the offensive line.
Steady,
far and away. I mean, that looks like a good move early on to start him right away.
I'd like to see more of Dalton Kincaid, but their first 2 picks are really looking like long-term starters, mainstays in the offense. And they needed help on the interior. He's looked at home since his first start in the first preseason game against Indianapolis. I like Torrance a lot. He's the best interior offensive lineman from the draft. I think they got the best tight end, and they got 2 of the best players at their position in the draft. And anytime you can do that, I think is really the team, the way that they've been drafting. I think it's a big get for both both those guys.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to see more of Kincaid, obviously, as I said, but it's week 1. I think that's an evolving role that he'll play in the offense. But O'Cyrus Torrence really, really looked good week 1, no doubt.
He definitely did
against an elite interior defense.
Exactly. I mean, everyone else struggled. You kind of whispered to the camera and to the mic about Jordan Poyer looking cooked. Well, I'm going to give you another guy who, based on one game, and I'm starting to get a little concerned about Mitch Morse.
Oh,
I did not like his game at all. Now, in fairness, Quentin Williams will make really good centers
the best
look like
bad,
shit.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is one game, but I'm not gonna say the alarm is sounding in my head, but the antenna is going up a little bit on him. In terms of bad grades, look, Josh Allen, that's low hanging fruit. Spencer Brown, that's low hanging fruit. We all see it with our own eyes. It is what it is. That's what they're going to have to deal with. Live by the sword, die by the sword.
Yeah.
One guy too that I wanted to go back and look, because I noticed him struggling along the offensive line, and this was like kind of like their quote unquote big ticket free agent if they really had one. But Connor McGovern had
he didn't have a great PFF
43.9. He was 6 out of 72 guards. He was 60th. So, I mean, way down on the list. And it looked it, too. Sometimes these grades could be deceiving.
Yeah.
Like Taylor Rapp was the worst rated safety in the entire NFL by PFF.
He didn't play safety, though.
No, that's what I'm saying.
He was linebacker.
He was coming up, and he was basically playing that nickel linebacker
He's playing
spot.
linebacker. Yeah.
Right, but, I mean, McGovern, that was, I mean, the numbers match what you see with the naked eye, because he really struggled. And I thought he struggled a little bit in the preseason, too.
He's also not a guy that you look at and you say is going to do great things against guys that are like the elite of the elite.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a good pass rush, like a good pass blocker. He's not a downhill run, which is why I think Torrance is a really good, like, I think he's a good complement to what you have in McGovern, who is a good pass blocker. And then I think you have a guy that's a little bit more comfortable as a run blocker in Torrance. I think you got guys that can do both, but one that has a strength in one area and the other one that has a strength in another.
How long does a contract matter for? Now, I'm talking about left guard specifically. Connor McGovern gets a good contract, but one game, again, no overreaction too much for one game, but one bad game for sure and some struggles. If that continues, do you go to David Edwards at left guard? David Edwards, I thought, had a really good camp, and I thought he had a good preseason too. He started. In fact, I think he started the last.
He did have a very
game.
good preseason.
Like if you're Sean McDermott, how long do you wait?
I think Connor McGovern is further down my list than Spencer Brown.
Yeah, but what do they do about Spencer Brown?
I don't know.
Trade?
Jermaine Ifedi's there. He's a veteran. He's played he's played tackle. He's a guy that maybe you can feel. He started games in this league. We
haven't heard any reports of this week in media, but media does have less access to Bills practice than, camp and preseason. But at some point, do you start trying to work maybe Ryan Bates into that tackle spot?
No,
because
I think you feel he's your only other true a guy that can play center for you.
Okay.
And because of that, I don't think you're trying to cross train him. He can play all 5 positions. That's what he came in. That's what you knew him as. I just think that the last thing you want to do is hurt your backup center at playing right tackle and then have your center go down, and then you're in trouble. Then you're in real trouble.
How important is this game on Sunday?
Super important.
Like
super important. For a lot of reasons. And it's not just a win or lose importance. I think there needs to be a little bit of a statement by the Bills.
Yes.
I was expecting the Bills to use the narratives against them all offseason as real fuel to not only beat the Jets, but to put on a clinic, to look like the team that we saw for 13 and a half weeks of last year. A team that lost 3 games by combined 8 points.
Yeah.
We didn't see that. And I think that there's an important point to be made about this Bills team of getting back to who they are and showing the rest of the league that they are still the team that is in the Super Bowl window. So because of that, it's not just win by any means necessary. It's not win ugly. It's not win. Because let me tell you, if the Bills won in overtime on Monday night, it's not like everything's better.
You're right.
It's really not like everything's better.
That.
There's a lot of problems, even though if they win that football game. But at least they win that football game.
Yeah.
This is a game you can't win 20-19.
Right.
You've got to win this game, 31-10, 31-17, and they should. And I think it's important that they do.
The way you frame that, I couldn't agree more. Look, it sucks if you're a Bills fan anyway. It sucks. This week sucks. Your quarterback sucked. Everything about this week
A lot of things
sucks.
sucked. Yeah.
Let's just say they got lucky and pulled that game out in overtime. They don't return a
You're
point.
not feeling too much better about it.
My concern would be like, what does he really learn? They still won the game. Hey, I played like shit, but we still won the game. This was like, if there's ever going to be a mirror check for an elite quarterback.
Like a learning experience. This is it for sure.
I picture Josh Allen, in Rocky IV when he's training, he's got a picture of Drago in the mirror.
Yeah.
Like I want that look from Josh like this whole week. The Raiders feel on paper like a perfect opponent, but they do.
But great defensive line. Their offensive line had the best grades of any offensive line coming out of last week in the entire league.
Yeah.
So they can block. So the defensive line's gonna have a different challenge this week. But I think it's a good team for the moment.
Got a great receiver, obviously. Devontae Adams, good running back. Jacobs didn't have a good game against Denver. I think he had like 48 carries on 14 yards. It feels like Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, he didn't get sacked though. Like you said, the offensive line they played well. They did not get sacked.
Josh Jacobs is really good. I'm worried about that.
Yeah. If they lose this game, the season's not over. But it's just it's going to get really ugly.
If they lose,
if they go out and win big, like you said,
all will be well. If they lose, my friend said he's going to call into my show and start reading scripts from the Bible.
Are you kidding? Dude, no, I might do that.
The Old Testament.
If they lose. Before I let you go, I'm going to get a prediction from you too before I let you go. But before that, one of the things that I've always liked about you, going back for a good handful of years now, being on this show, not even just this show though, is it feels to me as time goes on and more mainstream media people are getting involved with podcasting and they're doing their own podcasts as well. The relationship between, say, quote unquote, mainstream media and bloggers and local content creators, podcasters, whatever you want to call them, I feel like it's gotten stronger. But there was a time not all that long ago where there were not a lot of people in the mainstream who were willing to, give their time and their voice or their face or whatever to a camera to do shows. And that's one of the things I always have admired about you, man. You've always been you're kind of I don't even want to say a tweener because you do work for WGR. I mean, you are on the mainstream media, but at the same token, you've always been like down with.
Yeah, I started with Cover One.
Blogosphere.
I started as a blogger with Cover One, right? I mean, that was kind of where I got my start doing this. And while I was part-time at the station, I was helping grow Eric and Aaron, and before even Greg and Aaron were there, it was Eric and I. So there's always a soft place in my heart for people in the blog community. I think this is a unique market where we all sort of uniquely work together for a common thing. And it's not like somebody has to choose between listening to your podcast and listening to my show.
Right,
they can do
both.
They can do both. And I think that's what's great. We don't have 3 radio stations like New York City.
I think
Boston.
Not a lot of people think that way, though. At least they didn't before mainstream people I'm talking about. They would consider it direct competition. Like, why am I going to come do Talking Buffalo? That means you're not going to watch or listen to whatever.
Maybe my employer doesn't agree with me. But
everyone from GR has been on this show.
No, but it's not the employees as much as it's
I know
the
what
employer.
you're saying.
And maybe they don't believe that. But I would say that I think there's room in this market for all of us.
Did you see podcasting growing to what it's gotten to now? Like say maybe 5 years ago.
No, I didn't think so. But I think that the unique part about Buffalo is this. I don't know that the way that this market is where other markets are. I don't know that podcasts are big in New York City for the Jets and for the Giants.
Right.
I don't know that in Chicago, podcasts are as big for the Bears or, Miami for the Dolphins. But I think more and more what I've learned about, you and the Erics and the Aarons and Gregs and the Buffalo Rumblings guys and gals and
Bruce Nolan, shout out, my guy, man.
Listen, you don't got to tell me to shout out Bruce Nolan.
Food for Thought was one of my favorites. Never watched it on Friday night, but it was part of my Saturday morning routine. Man. A cup of coffee.
Was a lot of folks is after after we did our we did a podcast last week. We brought it back for a week. We're gonna do that probably forever. We're gonna bring it back once or twice a year. Bruce is a special guy, man. I know him very well personally. There are not many people know Bruce personally.
Right.
I feel very lucky and that I do. I think I consider him a very close friend of mine. He's a great content creator. He's incredibly smart. He's one of the smartest people, not just about sports, but just he's one of the smartest people I know.
He's great.
And then you got Joe Marino, who I think is one of the sharpest people in sports, much less. I think we are very, very, very lucky in Buffalo to have the variation we do. And I don't view it as, oh no, someone's not going to listen to me. They're going to listen to Joe, or they're not going to listen to me. They're going to listen to you. I view it as an opportunity to have a ton of different platforms to talk about a bunch of different things and different views. And if I might feel differently after a loss and need to listen to me, you might want to listen to me after a loss. You might want to listen to Joe Marino after a win.
Right.
And I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that, man.
I totally get it. And again,
a lot of people like to listen to me after a loss. I don't know if I like that reputation or not, but
I'm going to make sure if the Bills lose, I'm not even going to do a podcast.
I'm
going to turn on WGR. I'm just going to, maybe I'll just record all the callers talking to you and I'll offer my own takes on those. All right, before I let you go, official prediction time. I'm going to hold you to this if you're wrong. But Bills Raiders. All right, so the Bills are. I looked at the Vegas odds before we came here. 9.5, and the over under is 40.
9.5 is crazy.
It is, and the over under is 47. So give me a two team parlay.
I'm taking the Raiders plus 9.5, but I'm not taking the Raiders outright. I think the Bills will win. I think it'll be a closer game, that 27-20, something like that. A 10-point spread is insane in the NFL. I know it's a home game, so you're getting 3 extra from just being home.
Garoppolo's going to be a game manager on Sunday. I think he's going to certainly try.
They've got good.
Jacobs can move the chains.
They've got Jacoby Brissett or Jacoby
Myers.
Jacoby Myers. I don't think he's going to play because of
he's in protocol still as of now as we record this.
Devontae Adams is banged up. He's not going to be 100%.
Still,
it'll be a close enough game at 27-20, 28-21, something like that. But I don't think the Bills cover that. That's a lofty spread. And then over under. What was the over under?
47.
Well, I think at 27-20, I got it right. I got it on the under.
You're going to bet on the 47 and a half.
7 of the first 8 games on Sunday were under.
Really?
It's early in the season. Teams are not crisp. I'll take the over in this game, but it's not going to be by much.
I'm being a homer here, admittedly, but I think the Bills win comfortably. If you're right, there's going to be a lot of anxiety going on.
If the Bills win 28-21, I think people will be all right with that. It's not the best, but it's.
So you think the reaction, as long as the Bills win, it's going to be like, all right.
As long as the Bills win, it's like 28-14, and they get a late touchdown. It's 28-21, and it makes it feel close, but it's not really close.
You'll be in the stadium Sunday, right?
I will be. Yep.
What do you think the temperature is going to be in there? Let's just say first quarter, first and second drive, a Josh Allen turnover.
Impatient.
You're gonna
it's
feel
going to be
feel the tension.
It's going to be impatient. If they go 3 and out, interception early, it's gonna be boo birds. They're gonna be impatient. And rightfully so, by the way.
We'll see. All right, everybody, that is going to do it for this episode. Make sure you follow my guy Nate on Twitter at Nate Geary Sports. One more time, huge thank you to Imperial Pizza. I'm sitting here,
great folks here,
like a broken record, talking about how good this place is every time I'm here. I finally got a guy who actually appreciates wings, and we'll be fair and kind of in depth with discussing them. And I'm glad you did, because
can I mention something about Imperial? Yeah. As someone who frequented the OG Imperial, this is a remarkable place.
Yeah.
It went from being you walk in, you get your pizza, you walk out, to a place that you want to stay at. Yeah. There are not a lot of places like this in Buffalo, much less South Buffalo. This is a remarkably fantastic sports bar, and not one if you haven't been to Imperial in a long time, come back. This place is remarkable.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that's going to do it. Thank you again. Have a good weekend. Listen to WGR post game Nate Geary, and I'll be back with the new episode on Monday. Take care, guys.